like to just tell us if you see yourself as a legend and why people see you as a legend?
To be honest with you, I do not really know why they call me a legend. But if I take the definition of a legend, maybe I am one. Because people refer to me as an artist from the Macula, an artist from a veld. An artist who walk into nature and who study nature, look at nature. And because I really love this country and I love nature, I've always been in nature, and maybe people see me as a legend because they very seldom saw me, but they always saw my paintings. Let me start where I was born. I was born in Montuki in 1940 on the banks of the Casey River. The name of the street was Barry Street, but the end of the street, just before you go into the gates along the river, is called Lovers Walk. So I was born in a street by the name of Lovers Walk. And I think one of the reasons why I am so near to nature and why I like nature and always go into the veld alone. I was always alone. It's maybe because I was born in nature. Because, you know, that little place where I was born, there, Lovers Walk, it was in the middle of nature, man. There were trees and birds and flowers and the river and mountains. That is me.
So how did that translate into you as an artist or a painter, painter?
Listen, when I was small, when I was a little boy of about, say, 3 years old or 4 years old, I used to scratch on the walls and draw on the table. And my mother bought me a box of, you know, she was a teacher. She bought me a box of colored chalk. And a blackboard. She was a teacher, my father was a teacher. And that is actually where it began. Shortly after that, I was about, I was not yet 4. My mother passed away. And she died. But the urge to paint, to create, which was installed in me, never died.
Were you always talented? Were you always...
I was always talented. I was always drawing. There in my uncle's house in Montuki, he was staying just a plot next to my grandma's plot, and he was the principal of the primary school there in Montuki in those days. And his name was Conrad Theys, and there's a street named after him in Montuki.
So you never had any training? Are you just a natural?
Yes. In primary school, the teachers made a fuss about my work, and because I was a kid, I couldn't really understand the fuss. It's only when I went to high school and I joined the art class in Par, that was when I started being more serious about my art. And I got the highest marks in standard 6. In those days it was standards. In standard 6 for art. And the teacher there, he wanted us to paint the way he wanted us to paint. and I mean, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was a bit, I don't know how to explain myself. But I didn't like it because I didn't want him to tell me what colors to use or what to paint. I wanted to do it my way. And because I didn't get satisfaction in the art class, I left the art class in standard 7. But shortly after that, a new art teacher came, and he always wanted me to come back to the art class. He was a Mr. Kutsie. He always wanted me to come back to the art class, but I never felt like going back because I was afraid that the same thing is going to happen. So I never went back to the art class. And in after I've passed the matric, I went to Oudtshoorn. And there was an art teacher by the name of Mr. A.D. Hennis. He saw my talent. He never gave me the highest marks. He never praised me. But he always hint that there's something in my work which is worth looking at. And it was a good thing he never praised me. Because you see, to get a swollen head while you're still young, it can destroy you. And the years went by, I became a teacher, and I went to my first post was in Newsville, second post was in Loerisfontein, and but it's only when I got a post in Cape Town that I became an art teacher here. I never really wanted to be an art teacher. I wanted to be an artist. So Professor Pierre Volskenk, he encouraged me to come to Cape Town. You see, at Newsville I made a painting of a kind of farmhouse almost in the town. Een klein dorp, zei ze, in Newsville. And I gave it to a friend of mine. It's a Jewish guy by the name of Barney Fisher. He came to Cape Town and he brought the painting with him because he had somebody here. He visited here in Fischhoek. He had a friend there, girlfriend. And at the time there, Professor Matthijs Bokkerst, he was the curator of the National Gallery in those days, and that was 1962, 61, 62. I'm not sure now. And he asked Professor Volskenk, who wasn't a professor at that time yet, but he was an inspector of schools, art inspector. Professor Matthijs Bokkerst asked Professor Pierre Volskenk to go and fetch me there. And he said to him, listen, if you don't bring that man to Cape Town, let him further his art, South Africa, the culture in South Africa is going to lose out. So Pierre Volskenk brought me here. And I started at the school in Kuils River, and then I went to Elsie's River. Because in the Elsie's River, I got the opportunity to be an art teacher. But at that time, I had the feeling I want to paint full time. So I first came to Belvin, nearer to the house, my house. And then I started teaching here at Castlesvlei until my late wife agreed with me. She agreed with me that I should leave the teaching profession and concentrate on art. And I think she had a great influence on me. Because she believed in me, and you know that is what a man needs. He needs his wife to believe in him. But after 38 years, she passed away, and I married Elizabeth. But before she passed away, I received an honorary doctorate from UNISA for my contribution towards the South African art scene. And she went with me to Pretoria, but 17 days later she passed away. Then I was alone for a while until I met Elizabeth. And I married Elizabeth in 2009. And a year later I received an honorary doctorate from CPUT. So I've got 2 honorary doctorates for my contribution towards South African art. In the meantime, a lot of things happened. I became the vice president of the South African Association of Arts. Later I became the president. And I had my head office was in Pretoria. And I met a lot of people like Dihona Breed. And there's a guy I will never forget. I think he passed away long ago. He was a Dr. Johan Ludolf. He encouraged me. And he even introduced me to some people who were really interested in furthering my art. Professor Paulsen looked at my work and he said that my approach is the same as that of the Cape Impressionist painters. Now at that time, Gregor Boonsay was still alive and he was a Cape Impressionist painter. Gregor Boonsay, David Botha, Piet van Heerden, Alexander Rose Innes, they all became my friends, and I became one of the Cape Impressionist painters. Sorry. But Peter Wenning, who was born in Holland and came to South Africa, he is regarded as the father of the Cape Impressionist painters because he brought Impressionism to South Africa. And I am regarded as the last of the Cape Impressionist painters because he was the father of the Cape Impressionist painters. He was born in the 1800s. I'm not so sure when. We can look that up. But he was regarded as the father of the Cape Impressionist painters. And you know, besides the fact that we share the same outlook on art as Impressionists, we also share the same birthday. Wenning's birthday was the 9th of September, but he passed away in 1921 or 22. I think 21. 1921. And I was born 1940. Long after he passed away. But we share the same birthday. And but if you look at the work of the Cape Impressionist painters, you can see the line, because Gregor was influenced by Wenning, because Wenning was a house friend of the Boonsayers when Gregor was a kid. So he was influenced by Wenning. And when I came on the scene, years after that, I studied under Boonsayer, and I became the third in that row. It was Wenning and then Boonsayer and then me. And what is actually so significant is that we all like to paint outdoors in the open. We never use photographs. We paint in nature. As I grew older and the scene, the world started changing, it became dangerous to sit alone outside and paint. Well, what I did then, I went out and made sketches of the scene. I could have taken photographs, but you see, the problem with photographs is, after a while, you become the slave of the four corners of a photograph, instead of the freedom that is so characteristic of Impressionist painters. Am I clear? Okay. So I started with Gregor for a while, and then I decided now his influence become too strong now. So I went away from him, and I went where I came from, because I really loved the Makoland, the Bushman land, and the Antam. You know, I love that. I can't help it. I wasn't born there, but I was bred there. And I like the quiver trees. I like those hills, the rock formations. I just like the freedom of that part of the country. And I started painting there, and I really fell in love with the place that I shouldn't have felt in love, but which should have been part of me right from the start, from my birth. But I fell in love with the Makoland, and I think I'll die in love with the Makoland and with the Antam and the Bushman land, although I stay in Cape Town and I won't go back there because it's hard to live there, man. But what I like about that place is it is a hard. It's a hard country. It's very hot with soft colors. And hard people, very hardy people with soft hearts. And if I think about my life when I was small, without a mother, and moving from family member to family member, my father's sister, and I realized later that my life is actually almost the same as the quiver tree. It was a hard life, but I survived. And I prosper. Like the quiver tree, it grows in places where you can't believe it growing there. But it survived. And even in severe drought, the quiver tree, when it's time for the quiver tree to show its flowers, it doesn't disappoint. It shows it, even if the rest of the flowers is almost dead. When the quiver tree blooms, it shows its flowers triumphantly and with pride. And that is why I feel that because I could survive, I feel that the quiver tree is actually a self-portrait when I paint them. I paint self-portraits when I paint. But life, the art life was difficult, man. At the beginning, I could hardly survive here. right at the beginning, I could hardly survive. You know, there was apartheid and all the things that were actually against you. But I just ignored it as if it doesn't exist. And I just go on like a winner. With whether I was winning or not, I went on like a winner. And I believed in what I was doing. And strangely, I believed in the people of South Africa. I believe that those, whether they can afford it or not, or whether they like my work or not, I always felt that these people won't let me go. They won't let me go down. And they did it. They supported me. But little money in those days, it went better later. But I'm glad to be a South African, and I'm still glad to be a South African. Because somebody asked me one day, now, why didn't you go overseas? Because I think that you prosper there more than here. I said, no. They haven't got the Namaqualand. They haven't got the Namaqualand, they haven't got quiver trees, they haven't got those flowers, and they haven't got those nice people that we've got here. Let me tell you, the South African art scene, even if it was difficult, I was never dropped by them. They always supported me, and they're still doing that. They're still supporting me. Although there's no much money anymore like in the old days. You see, what I should have done is I should have kept my money. But I started supporting other artists. I even supported an art competition here. Fuleka at Belleville, the Belleville Gallery. For a couple of years, I gave them, every year, I paid for the main prize, 20,000 rands. That was the main prize, every year. Until I couldn't do it anymore. But now they call that competition, the main prize is called the Conrad Theys prize. Well, I feel proud about that, but I think they shouldn't have done it. They shouldn't have called it the Conrad Theys prize. They should have called it the Belleville Gallery Prize. It's called the Art B. Belleville is called Art B. They should have called it the Art B Prize. I mean, who am I to be a prize named after me just because I supported for a couple of years? It's not necessary. There's one thing I believe, that an artist mustn't only live for himself. He must come second. He must live for the rest of the art world. He must live for other artists, because he is an artist because other people were artists. If other people weren't artists, he wouldn't have been called an artist. I believe that an artist mustn't get a swollen head, man. He mustn't think he's the best. Although he knows he's the best, or he shouldn't act as if he is the best. He must always remember, somewhere there are people better than him. Although I don't mind if other people think they are the best. But I must never think I'm the best, because I don't think I'm the best. I think that if the moment you think you're the best, you don't make progress anymore. You don't change. You don't experiment anymore. Well, I'm too old today. I don't care. I just go on and on and on. I just keep myself busy creating, or read about the creations of other people, or look at the work of other people. Sometimes I get so much pleasure in looking at the creations of people like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, and then at the Renaissance artists like Rembrandt and those people. I enjoy them. You see, those people, they didn't work to impress other people. They just worked because they couldn't help it. It comes from within. And they created those works because they want to create it and not to impress other people. Rembrandt, in the end, he virtually died a poor man. Because I think they said he was giving his money away to the poor people in the, as we would call it in the townships. And I did the same, and I shouldn't have done it because we are living in difficult times. You can't just give money away. But I've given money away. There are a lot of artists who can vouch for that. Who can tell you how I supported them. I gave them rows of canvas, and it weren't cheap stuff in those days. And the greatest satisfaction I got is when I see a young artist make progress. A young artist, he lives for his art. To me, it is not, I'm not so as important so much, but to me it is, art is important, you know what I mean? Art is important, not me. I'm just part of the scene. I'm just in there, and I didn't choose to be in there myself. I was born in there. And I think that an artist, you know, the moment your aim is money or riches or become rich, then I don't think your art will be genuine, man. There's something will be lacking.